Welcome back to All Things Probing, where in this video we will be demonstrating how to set a work offset using the Renishaw Inspection Plus corner inside and outside probing cycles for any internal or external corner features. This will be a multi-video training tutorial series covering all things probing. We'll go through both the basic and advanced features of CIMCO probing in Mastercam and the probe operation of your machine, so make sure to follow along, like, and subscribe as we dive in. To begin, we can open up Mastercam and our previous part file. Because my origin is located at the intersection of two surface features, the corner outside datum cycle is perfect for setting a work offset, as I can probe those single surface features in both the X and Y axis to find the reference surface position, naturally finding the intersection of each and setting it as my origin. To get started, we can click on the CIMCO Cycle Probing icon located on our CIMCO tab and go to the Workpiece Datum category. We're going to start with the Corner Outside cycle. The workflow will be identical to our previous cycles, and because I had already selected a probe, we can bypass this and enter an operation comment if you wish. If you do not already have a probe defined, please watch our tutorial video on how to define a probe. Next, we will click on the Cycle tab, followed by right-clicking in the Geometry section. You'll notice that now in this cycle, we have the option to select our geometry from lines. This can either be wireframe lines and/or solid edges. In our example, we will select the two intersecting lines in the corner in which we wish to probe. Once we do so, CIMCO probing is now associated to that geometry, and we can start defining specifics to that probe path. Looking at our current settings, you will notice that the x-axis, y-axis, along with their spacing and corner orientation, were defined based on the selected geometry. We can then define the specific measuring height, safety distance, clearance height, and a few other settings for this particular path as needed. The Renishaw corner inside and outside probing cycles will allow for an optional spacing in both the x and y axis. This will allow you to dictate whether you would like to probe at 1 or 2 points along each edge and their respective probe positions. From here, we can define the measuring height by simply typing in a number, using your right mouse button click menu and use such an option of z-coordinate of a point, or use the center mouse wheel in order to scroll up or down, as this will increase or decrease the value. I will set mine to a -0.250. We can do the same thing for safety distance, as this will be the standoff distance from the part that the probe will position. I will set mine to a 0.250, followed by the clearance height, which is the height that the probe will rapid to, from, and in between cycles. Now that we have the basic values input, you can see a visual of the probe path on your screen and can adjust any of the values to get a live updated feedback. We can set an over-travel distance if you wish, as this will allow the probe to travel past the expected coordinate without alarming out, along with the work offset number that we are currently using on the machine and wish to update. In this example, we will use G154P10. Within the cycle, you will also have an option to print data, which would deprint out a probing report based on your machine's I/O channel and parameters. We can also shift the work offset by a certain value after it is set by using the datum set point options. Finally, you will notice a suppress probe on and off and a measurement result tick box. The suppress probe on/off will keep the probe turned on while it's probing in between cycles and can be set per operation. The measurement result will allow you to copy the probe's results into specific user-defined variables on your CNC controller so they can be referenced later. This is important because the standard variables that Renishaw writes into are constantly being overwritten per probing cycle. The feature-to-feature option will be covered in its own tutorial. Once you check out of the cycle, we can simulate it within Backplot, Verify, or Machine Simulation and see how it looks. You'll notice that the cycle will probe along each edge, finding their position and intersection point, along with setting it as my origin. Now that I have set a corner outside, let's switch gears and this time use the corner inside datum cycle, assuming that I have an origin based on an internal corner. In order to create this cycle, let's first start by adding a new plane to one of the internal corners. We can then click on the CIMCO cycle probing icon, workpiece datum, corner inside. We will enter an operational comment if you wish, followed by clicking on the cycle tab and then right-clicking in the geometry section. Similar to corner outside, the corner inside will allow the same geometry selection of lines. Again, this can either be wireframe lines and/or solid edges. Once we select on the two internal intersecting lines, CIMCO probing is going to be associated to that geometry, and we can start defining specifics to this probe path. Again, you will notice that the x-axis, y-axis, along with their spacing and corner orientation were defined based on the selected geometry. We can then define the specific measuring height, safety distance, and clearance height along with the other settings for this particular path. The Renishaw corner inside probing cycle will allow for an optional spacing parameter in both the x and y axis. This will allow you to dictate whether you would like to probe at 1 or 2 points along each edge and the respective probe positions. We will again define the measuring height to a minus 0.250, our safety distance to a positive 0.250, and the clearance height to 1 inch. From here we can enable our over travel distance and set it to a 0.125. We should now see a visual path on our part and can adjust any of the settings if needed before closing out. The last thing I will set is our current work offset number that we are using on the machine and wish to update. Again, in my example, it'll be G154P10. Once we click OK and check out of the cycle, you can simulate it within Backplot, Verify, or Machine Simulation and see how the path looks. Let's post out the code to see how it looks and how it would run on the machine. Looking at the Renishaw Inspection Plus code for our Haas mill, you will notice that the program is nice and short and makes the code very easy to read. As we go through, you will find the probe on and off commands, the probe's protected safety moves in order to approach and retract from the part safely, along with the corner outside cycle. Next will be our I and J spacing values for the second probe points, followed by the Q value, which defines the over travel distance, along with the S number, which will be the work offset number that we are updating on the machine. We then repeat a similar process below for the corner inside cycle. All of this information can be referenced by looking at the Renishaw Inspection Plus manual. We hope that you have found this video beneficial. For further information, questions, or to request a free 30-day trial of CIMCO probing, please contact CIMCO or your local reseller today or visit our website of probing.com. Thanks for watching.